stinking in the trench, stalking like a leech. It could conceive your conscience, all this for the bitch.
Yay, we're live.
But what is the use?
Phew!
Dying like a fool.
It's like
They
planning
give
this
me
week.
credit deserve ashes up just to tally you. But you know, no, never know. This scarlet fever makes me fall. Rest in habitus.
Yay.
See things in jails blue. Sell me a fago, mister. Let me stay at home. Then I pawned my watch.
Alright, everyone, to say no, I am here. Just give a chance to log in. A few minutes before 8 o'clock. Well, 1 or 2 minutes before anyway. Just enjoy this track. Give people a chance to log in. More the wonderful music for Mr. Blackhead. It's a bit slower to start a show with, but we can do this a bit more lively. Plus, I'll put a bit of Elvis Rocks on the end. There's Arnie saying he's welcome. Thank you. Yeah, I'll do. I can type as well, like this week. I'm alive now. Oh, here we go. People online already. Brilliant. Yep. Excellent. Hey, I can see on screen. I got some hello. I'm going to be a really poor DJ now. Just jump forward a track. Too slow. Here we go. That's better. What's up with the webcam? Why are you getting that weird picture? I don't know. I'll sort the webcam out. Shouldn't even be seeing the webcam anyway. I want to check what I'm looking like. What happened there? Okay, let's get that camera back on again. There we go. We're okay. We're good to go. Oh, my hair looks... It's not oily or grease. My hair is wet. We're out in West Wales visiting family. In our little bubble, of course. And we just got back. So everything's a little bit rushed. So there's wax and water on my hair. Quick shave. Here we are. Very excited. We've got lots to talk about. Following up from last week. Wow, that was exciting last week. We already had double what we get total views. I'll just turn these down slightly, shall I? Are we okay? I can't see the comments now. Here we go. Hello, alright, let's say hello to a few people here. Excellent. People are who's on board here. Finky Slingers is back again. Les Povey. Peter Kemp, John Windsor, Alan Griffiths, hello everyone. Al will kill, I think it says. Hi all, Pob Luck, diolch yn fawr here, Al. Hi guys, yeah, Pob Luck, Edwch, Pob. Legolas is on board. Karen Sawyer, that's why another name came up for you then. Shumai, yeah. Evening all, Arnie's getting hellos as well, yes. Good hound da. Finky in the house. Alright, you see me okay? Yeah, I'm stop moving on mine. Alright, used to that. Right. Just to let you know while people are still logging in, getting into catching up with the live feed. Last week, wow, what a reaction to last week. All about that summary. Like, let's turn this down a little bit. Introduction to really how British history was just completely dumped, removed. But 1714 it started, really. But as you'll see tonight, it started before then for other reasons, which we're going to get on to in a second, right? Boom, boom, boom. Thank you very much, Barra. And we'll let that fade out there nicely. Okay, so a proper hello and croeso. Welcome to the show, everyone. Good to see so many on board already. People logging on all the time. Yeah, we had record numbers watching last week. Record new subscribers this week. Record views. Everything. It's really starting to build. It's so exciting. Great to see. Thank you so much for all those spreading the word, telling people about it. This is hot stuff. Everyone should know it. And what amazed me, as of last look, we had 700 and something views on last week's live feed. And there's been on... Oh, Rob Shawsey. Good to see it, mate. Looking fresh. Yeah, feeling fresh. Run out of the car. Hot water. Shave. Bang. Here we go. Craig Walters. Excellent. Craig. Brilliant. Craig Walters, in case you don't know, he's the man who discovered the Lion's Stone. And I got to see you this week, Craig. Sorry it didn't happen last week. And hey, we got Paul Hartel, all the way from Hollywood in California. I got a friend from New Zealand and action. Okay, Thani. Yanni, hit. Get on with it. The great thing was, okay... is the music still on? Sorry. Stop, Baron, stop it. Right. I think I pressed the pause twice and brought it back on again. Yeah, what was the most amazing thing for me, though, was that there was loads of, not even as much as aggression as usual when you raise these subjects about the fact that history we're taught in school has all been kind of invented over the last few hundred years, and has been a real propaganda campaign. And I think that, as was shown last week, by bringing out some old school textbooks, and you can see in there, stuff that we talk about on this show was not just invented. People love to have a go at Wilson and Blackett, for example, or Yolu Mogonuk, Edward Williams, the great forger. All these people, they love to stick them up and pillory them as people without actually disputing what's being said, really, and the facts behind it and the story. And that was and that was very much the case. I noticed this week. Okay, over 700 views. There's actually some thumbs down from people who objected, but no one has come back that can dispute anything that was said, because you can get the evidence for yourself. You can go and get. A lot of people asking me again, I should get commission from this company in India. If you look at Gyan Books, Gyan Books.com, very easy. Get loads of these books. It's ridiculous you have to go all the way to India to get a Welsh book, but there's things like Cambria Triumphans, which I showed last week, and I showed some... Oh, one of the things I showed last week was Story of Gwent, which is an old 1908 school textbook. I've now covered and everything. And I've also got... Just wanted to... Sorry, I meant to have this... I've got all the props to hand this week. Is a similar book I've had for... my father had this book when he was at school. I don't know if he lifted it or something. You can see the marks inside. I think it's Mountain Ash School in Glamorgan. Was it Abercunnan? Yeah, I've got my glasses on. Mountain Ash. And it's a similar thing then, all about Glamorgan, written in 1908. And it's fabulous. And I showed last week the book, the story of Gwent, which shows you what school books looked like before the 1920s. This might seem a long time ago. It's only 100 years. It's less than 100 years, really. And that's where the last big change took place, where all this history was finally kicked completely out of the schools. And the new, what you could call a sort of a Saxon-centric syllabus, something like that, was taught in Welsh schools as well as the English schools. And what I wanted to say was good news, that these are also available on the Gyan Books store. Well, the Story of Gwent was, because I've ordered my own copy. And reprints are great, because you can throw them around a bit and write on them and all that kind of stuff. So much easier than using the old fragile ones, like this one where I've covered it again. And everything inside is really sort of, falling apart, showing the test of time. But what is wonderful, you see a lot of these old photographs of places that don't even exist anymore. So when I get the reprints back from India, I'll be showing you those. Now, a couple of things I do want to deal with that cropped up last week. Victor's right to history. School is for studying, life is for learning. Diolch. Thank you, sir. And more wisdom there. Academia thriving and attacking Wilson and Blackett. Yes, I'm afraid that is the way it goes. And Sitchin, yes, and various other people. Well, one of my famous writers, famous writers, of course, is Velikovsky. If you zoomed in, you'd see all the Velikovsky books there as well, and he got slaughtered. It's just the way it is. It seems if you can't actually address the issues being raised and dispute the evidence, which is really hard to do when it's physical, hard evidence, then go after the person and be rude to them. So, I get people being rude to me a lot. It's okay. It's just words, isn't it? It's a sign that there's no argument. But what was interesting, I'm trying to get around to the point, was in this week is that no one has come back with a comment. Hello, Patrick Jones. Yes, good to be back here. Good to see you, buddy. And like I say, good to see Paul Hartel, all the way from California. Yeah, so you can order those copies in America as well, because Paul's put on there. He's gone for the leather binding job. Looking forward to it. Yeah, it'd be great, wouldn't it? So, one challenge, I'm going to make it right now at the beginning, and this is a challenge you can put to anybody who's denying all this, is say, okay, show me any reference to the British being called Celtic before round about 1710 when Edward Lloyd did his work, alright? Just find any point where you can find a reference to that. Because I've been throwing this challenge out now for over a year on all sorts of Facebook groups and professors and history people, archaeologists, of course, and people who've got degrees obviously in Celtic studies, which is a bit difficult for them. I appreciate that. And they get quite aggressive about it because there is no answer to that. And the latest defence, which has been kind of thrown my way, I've noticed so far, is the idea that Celts was a generic term like barbarians. So anyone who was non-Greek or non-Roman was called Celtic. So everyone was Celtic. No, that's not the case either, all right? That's just a sidetrack one. That's, again, not answering the issue. The British were never referred to as Celts, okay? The Celts were a specific tribe in the south of France, north of Italy. Look them up, you'll find them on the maps. Look for Celtae or Celtii with C-E-L-T-I-I. Usually, though, it's Celtae, C-E-L-T-A-E, or Celticae. All fine, they're all there. Even Celtoi, if you want to use a different spelling, and they refer to those people. Nothing to do with Britain. For those who were away last week, I'm just going to do a quick recap, and then come on to this week, which adds a little bit more fuel. Hope I'm not going to pour any more oil on the fire. But the idea with this was, what you're really trying to do there is it's like a distraction, if you like. So there's no reference to the British being called Celts before that point. It was all part of the idea that if you remove all the British history, you've got to replace it with something. So what I showed last week, and a lot of it comes from the work of people like Wilson and Blackett, or those other people, Percy Enderby, even threw in a bit of Velikovsky, various other writers, and E.O. Gordon with his book Prehistoric London, another great source of reference, is you can see when this myth started being created and when all the British history started to become just dismissed as legends and myths. And something I didn't get around to showing last week, I want to talk about a little bit more this week, is the idea of the migration from Troy. And if I got back here, I would have had more graphics up, but I'll try and get them up for when this goes on to the replay version. This was just such an accepted part of British life, and not just Wales, also England, and Scotland, presumably. And you have people like Shakespeare writing plays about Troy and Cressida. You know, these plays set in ancient Troy. It was just an accepted fact that that's where the British came from. And a lot of people might not be aware of it, is that the old name for London at one point was actually Troy Novatis, which is New Troy. This was their new Troy that they were creating. So what started happening in more recent times, mostly 1800s, Victorian times, when Guests and Stubbs and people like that started coming along, they tried to say this Troy is like this universal legend. It's a myth. And that it was just latched onto lots and lots of different histories. Lots of people claimed it to try and give this ancient precedence to their people, to show that the oldest civilization. The Greeks in particular did a lot of this, adding a false history, as we'll see a bit more about, okay? Now, the big point about this was, it's a wonderful piece of curious doublespeak, because this only struck me a couple of days ago, which is why I'm mentioning it now, is it's really clever, because when you look at the history of it, the reason, it's not a case of these different people claiming some legendary history back to this legendary mythical place. It's different versions of history. And that's what you find. So you see the Franks' history, they trace their family lineage back to Troy. And I've got that to show you in a second. Just making notes here, don't forget what I was going to show you. The Franks. The Romans themselves, they say they go back to Troy. They talk about Aeneas and the forming of Rome for the survivors of Troy. You've got the Etruscans, more difficult to read their notes unless you read the Old Welsh. You've also got Josephus Flavius doing the Jewish accounts. They mention Troy. And what's also interesting, you find in the Bible, it's mentioned as Tarsus. And you can read a lot more about that I'm plugging the book again, Trojan War. Should be back from the printers in less than 2 weeks. So they'll be going out, so that's good news. And in there you can see a whole chapter on the Bible referring to it. But of course, it's at 650 BC. So the big thing that was done, first of all, was push that back into distant history. And then you can dismiss it as a myth. And by the way, all these other countries have the myth as well. No, they all share the same histories. That's actually what happened. So right, so we're going to do a bit of that. And then we'll give a little bit of updates at the end. The new format, people said they liked it. Got a great response. Go straight into the subject like I've started doing. And then those who just want to see the subject and the discussion and get involved in that are really happy. And then I'll do some news at the end about developments and what's happening with books and new things. Oh, and Wilson and Blackett news as well. I don't have as many notes as I normally have already done in advance, but here we go. Right, okay, so I'll say hello to Arnie as well. Arnie, very quiet tonight. Have we got any comments you want to pick up on?
Yes, there are some, but they don't seem to be coming through.
Oh, not coming through.
Random text and more random text.
Oh, what's happened there?
Well, they're not coming through on your screen.
Oh, they're not coming through on my screen. Oh no, hang on a second. What are we going to do with that? If you just bear with me a second, I'm going to have to read off Arnie's screen.
No, it's just my ones where I'm posting like 200 letters.
I don't understand. You've lost me now.
These two haven't come through.
Oh, I see your comments haven't come through on my screen. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, 2 of them haven't.
Okay. All right. Oh, hang on a second. Let's try to make this work then. I don't know if it's going to work. Anyway, let's dive straight in. And the first question is, did those people who saw the picture at the beginning, and I put the picture back on screen, hopefully, does anybody recognise who this is or what the picture is of? It's a very important moment in history. Can we see the comments? Anyone going to have a go at that? Anyone going to have a go? Any guesses? Come on, let's see some guesses.
I don't think it's come through yet.
Oh, it's on your screen.
Oh, yeah.
See, people must be able to see it. Mm-hmm.
You've just asked it.
Okay, I've just asked a question. Oh, it's only coming through on the headphones now. Because I'm on a 9-second lag, of course, so I need a little bit more patient. Oh, hang on. Arnie's signaling at me. Right, anyway, I'm going to push on with this, okay? Do you know who that is and what's going on there? It's a very, very important moment in British history. And what's being shown there on that picture is this is William Caxton. And he is presenting the first piece of printed, books. Print, the first paper with printer on it, done in Britain. It wasn't his invention or anything like that, but he brought it to London. And this was supposed to be done in 1476, all right? Okay, so for all those who got that, well done. You are I'm very impressed that you managed to spot that just from that painting, because I wouldn't have done. I'll be quite open about it. So here we go. So of course on my thing I'm now looking, I'd hate it when the camera does this. I'm looking like that. I should be looking at the screen that you're looking at, and it goes the other way. Anyway. Right, so what we have here, William Caxton, English merchant, diplomat and writer. Diplomat's interesting, isn't it? That usually means spy, but anyway. Is thought to be, this is off Wikipedia, I like the way it's thought to be, not as definitive as I thought it might be, to introduce a printing press into England in 1476. And as a printer, so effectively he's the first printer really, was the first English retailer of printed books. Okay, now the curious thing is, almost immediately after that in 1476, a law was passed that you couldn't actually print anything in Welsh. So Welsh was immediately, suppressed. And that's the main theme, what I'm going to do tonight. Just a short presentation tonight, talking about it being suppressed. Because one of the things I want to go to even before that, if you go all the way back to Edward II, already laws are being passed that writing implements were illegal in Welsh, which is where we get on to the Welsh Colburn language being written in wood with strokes made by a knife, okay? So one of the things about 1476, and there's another picture of the great event. There they are, touring the press, and Caxton's presenting to the royalty. So isn't it wonderful? We can print stuff. We can do propaganda now really fast. And the first thing we can do is stop anyone else doing it, all right? So this is how printing came into Britain. Now, this is a significant piece because this is the oldest Welsh book I can find, because the story, the way it worked, as I understand it, is that ostensibly the Welsh language was considered to be outside the law, sort of beyond the pale, as the expression goes, not usable, so it couldn't be printed. Now, the main shaker at that time was a person called William Salisbury. Have the book ready? Where is the book? Oh, my dictionary's all together normally. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I haven't covered it yet. There we go. Again, I've got this from Guian. Another book I recommend. People ask me to show the book titles a bit longer, please, because they are interested in getting them. Okay, now this is...
You can't see it proper. Oh, there we can.
Yep, you can see it. Oh, good. A dictionary in English and Welsh, William Salisbury. Very important person, William Salisbury. It's not a massive dictionary, but it's very good. And this is supposed to be originally... yes, okay. I lost my track. Arnie's distracted me. It's originally printed in 1574. This is a reprint of a reprint, if you look carefully, from 1877. But the important point was, the original book was printed in 1574. Now, if you watch people like Wilson and Blackett, they do explain that printing in Welsh was illegal for 200 years. Wasn't allowed, I should say. I don't know how illegal is the correct term. So the important point I'm trying to find out, I need help from people out there on the comments, or later send, well, I prefer the comments and everyone can see the discussion, okay? That's why I prefer that to direct messages to me. And also, lots of other people know more about this stuff than I do, and they can answer the comments rather than me bouncing it back. So don't be shy, all right? You want to put comments on the YouTube channel? Fantastic, okay? Or on the Facebook if you're not logged in. I understand with YouTube you have to log in and everything. The other thing I would say to people, if you do watch these broadcasts, you enjoy it, but you don't have an account, set one up, all right? You haven't got to give away all your personal details and everything. I know the concerns about YouTube. Just set up an account for this purpose, and so you can contribute and you can subscribe and all that kind of stuff, because we're almost at 1,000 subscribers. And, oh yeah, got to mention the special show before I forget. Right, so this William Salisbury book's important because because this Bible is actually printed, if you look on it, in 1588. Okay, so if we go to the Welsh, this is from the National Library of Wales. So I'll read it out because it's all quite good actually. The year 1588 saw the publication of the first Welsh translation of the complete Bible. So what seems to have happened is they've managed to get through 2 books. The first one is this one, possibly the first book printed in the Welsh language. Obviously not this reprint. 1574, and I think if you read the introduction on this, you'll find one of the ways he managed to get round it. It would seem to me it's quite clever. So basically, it's to allow the way they've done it is quite clever. It's written to allow Welshmen to learn the English tongue. Where's my... What's it all going wrong? My glasses! Let me read this too, 'cause I love this, alright? This is how you get it through, okay? A dictionary in English and Welsh, much necessary to all such Welshmen as will speedily learn the English tongue, thought unto the king's... it's difficult to read this stuff. Might I be met... to be fed to the police of his grace's subjects in... That's hard to read. But anyway, I'll just put that a second so you can have a crack at it yourself. Let's go full screen for that a minute. The point of it is, anyway, the way you get these books printed was to say this is a book so that Welshmen can speak English. That's the key about this book. It's meant for Welshmen to be able to speak English. You find nearly all the early Bibles, early dictionaries, they only go one way. It's not to help people speak Welsh. These are to help, and obviously useful for us, but they always go from Welsh to English, and that's how they seem to get it through the censors. And it's fantastic that they did do this, because this is pretty much the only traces we got of a lot of the early Welsh at the time. And if you look at some of the projects going on, like the GPC, which on this, I'm not going to slight detour on that one just yet. That's the massive multi-million-pound project to make this universal Welsh dictionary, which I've got quite a few problems with. It reminds me very much of the job Winston Smith used to do in 1984. We had to scratch out the old complicated Welsh and put new dumbed-down language in instead and make it universal. And that's easily what that dictionary's doing. And I know I get a lot of stick again for that. Maybe I should go through in the comments. If anyone asks, I'll go through why. Why it seems like that to me. Or I'll try avoid ranting today, so I'm going to keep it fairly short on this one. Already 25 minutes in. Anyway, so let's see a bit more about what the Library of Wales says about it. Sorry, let's put that back on. So this folio volume printed in black leather by deputies, blah blah blah, Queen's printer. It was intended for church rather than home use. So what they managed to do, you can read the whole thing, and there's no point putting it on the screen and reading it all. The point was that if you look down the bottom, it was Protestants with their Protestant zeal for making the scriptures... I can't highlight on this. I thought I could highlight. For making the scriptures available to all. Men steeped in classical learning. They also dreamt of seeing the vernacular safeguarded, that's the Welsh language, and elevated to the status of a learned language. Their dictionaries, grammars, and scriptural translations, of which the 1588 Bible is a supreme example, went far to turn this into reality. It'd be very nice if the Welsh Library actually made these books easier to get them, wouldn't it? So in 1563, so this is like 90 years after Caxton's brought in his printing press, they passed an order, or they tried to, if you read it closely, they tried to pass an act ordering the Bible and prayer book be translated into Welsh by St. David's Day 1567. Though it didn't quite make it, they did finally get this chap again, William Salisbury. He gets some criticism for his translations. That's another issue. And then the superb Bible, published in 1588, was the work of William Morgan, who appears to have taken it upon himself to undertake this huge task in 1578. And it's an original translation from the Hebrew and Greek originals, rather than from the English. And if you read the rest, you can pause and watch it again some other time. Basically, go to the end. The translator not only produced a version of unfailing accuracy, but also skillfully moulded the classical language of the poets into the literary Welsh known to us today. In short, the book is the foundation stone on which modern Welsh literature has been based. Okay, so that's enough on that one. The point I'm trying to make here is very much that this was an ongoing campaign to make it difficult to have the Welsh language, to make it unavailable and suppress it, because with that, all the histories go with it. The other situation, which you might want to look up yourself and look into, is what's called, you have the burning of the books, which I mentioned last week, by Scholaris, who was the English monk. So that when all these great Welsh princes and lords would go to the Tower of London to do their punishment or be hostages, they would send for their library, and a huge amount of information was stored in the Tower of London, in London, obviously in the White Tower. And, of course, this guy Scholastics went out of his way to destroy it all. Scholarius, sorry. So that's where a lot of the information also went. I just want to say a couple more things on this before we crack on onto the news. So it's a short one tonight because I've been away all weekend. I did want to cover this in more detail, and especially to deal with a lot of the reaction from last week. So the first one was the Celtic Challenge. Very important, ask anybody that. There's no reference to British being called Celtic. And that's the English, the Scots and the Irish, the Welsh, not called Celtic before that date. And I want to keep mentioning the English because one of the issues that's come up here as well is that this is kind of a Welsh thing only. No, it's very important to realise that the English have actually lost more than anyone. At least the Welsh, Irish and Scottish are aware that they're not Saxons or Angles, and they do have a history. And it'd be great to raise the awareness of what a great history this was, going all the way back to Troy. Whereas the English have just gone along with the idea of being Anglo-Saxon Germanics. So for them, it's an even worse situation when you think about it, really. So I hope plenty of English people watching. And also, I know we've got people from all around the world doing this from a historical point of view, because this is an important piece of world history, and it makes such a big difference when you can see exactly how it all fits together. So I want to mention English there. Oh yes, that was it. The curious one then is the Franks King's List. Hang on one second. Get my proof copy out. That's where's the list of chapters? Come on, RB, you should know all these pages off by heart by now anyway. Yep. So when you get this book here, you will see a list of all here. The final copy is better printed than this. And again, this is a situation where it's another history that confirms with coincides with the British history, as you'd expect. So this goes all the way back through the kings of Franks. And the Franks, of course, the ones who moved in and became the French eventually. So that goes all the way back. You can follow it through 42 generations, and there's a couple of dodgy ones in there, a couple of gaps and things. But one thing's interesting is number 26. You can see where there's a dynastic marriage into Coil. Coil being the source probably of the songs Old King Cole, Old King Cole, and all that kind of stuff. All right, okay, so it's which is that one, okay? So that's the main thing. What else I want to talk about then? Just mention, so since medieval times, that was the other topic, was the important thing to remember then is another thing which people have been asking about this week is when you say no Welsh history was taught in schools, yes it is. I was taught about the Welsh princes. It's not much in school, but at least there's the Welsh princes, and everyone in Wales gets to know about Owain Glyndŵr and those kind of people, the North Walians, Llywelyn ap Fawr and all these kind of things. Now, a little bit of a story there, and I'd very much encourage people to look into the Wilson and Blackett books, get the story on this, and you'll see there that what that's really about is trying to move the history again from southeast Wales and the old British kings, which is the focus of what we're talking about, and trying to create a history which matches in for dynastic reasons in England again. So I think we'll do that in more detail next week. If you're not aware of it, just to give a quick idea, John, who was King John, the younger brother of Richard, Coeur de Lion, the Lionheart, who was off around the world, spending all the country's money. As he said, if he could, he'd ransom London if he could find a buyer. And he's very little time spent in Britain. The most famous story seems to be where he smashed up a pub with his axe. I had to apologise the next day for it. Anyway, he gave a huge amount of... been looking for this... Oh, sorry, Stephen, you couldn't find the channel. So the huge amount of money required. John obviously had to raise taxes, and he got a bad name. Now, what people aren't aware of so much is that John married into the family of Llywelyn up in Powys. And they did have offspring. Now, at some point, and this is where, again, I'd like to throw this question out, if people want to come back to me with the reasons, he had to divorce, or he did divorce her. Now, I've read different accounts about this. Wilson and Blackett say it was diplomatic pressure, because they wanted the king to marry someone more important from the French royal family, which he did. I think Isabella, I think her name was. And that was the way it went. So... The other story seems to be that he seemed to tire of her, or he didn't get any male heirs. So people who know more about that period can look into it and find out what happened. Either way, the Welsh marriage was annulled and cancelled. So he goes off, gets married again, does his own thing. Meanwhile, there are now descendants of King John married into the Snowdonia, the family, the kingdom of Snowdonia, or princedom, depending on which version you prefer. So that is when we come along, later along, when the Tudors come along with Henry VII. This is the connection to the throne. This is when supposedly the Welsh king and the Welsh Tudors took to the throne. So their claim was based on descendants of this marriage between John and the Princess Joanne, I think her name was, up in Snowdonia, and the descendants coming through there. We get to Henry VII. And of course he starts his campaign in Wales. He really draws on the old British history. His banner is the Red Dragon. He takes this, he raises his troops, he lands in Pembroke, people flock to his banner. He brings all the tales back, all the old stories in Mervyn of the Red Dragon and the White Dragon, which works out brilliantly, of course, because Richard III, his logo or his emblem is the white boar. And in heraldic terms, the boar is the dragon. So this is the Red Dragon against the White Dragon. The Welsh rise up, everything's looking fantastic. Battle of Bosworth, Richard III, the last king, died in action, leading a charge. He's hacked down and killed. And Henry VII and the Tudor dynasty, from which, of course, we get Henry VIII, Elizabeth I, and all that shenanigans. And this, another disaster, and this is another point I want to get onto. This point was a disaster for British, and in particular, Welsh history. It's often celebrated in Wales. I've done it myself. I used to live in London. I call my home Bosworth House, because that was the Battle of Bosworth, and that was where the Welsh stuck it to the English, all right? It doesn't work out well for the Welsh afterwards. When the first things that happened, and you can look at the Sovereign Cymru site and people like that, is this situation where they basically created a false colonists into the border counties between Wales and England. So Hereford, Shropshire, Somerset. Is it Worcestershire? Not Worcestershire. Anyway, the 4 border counties there. And settlers are put in there, and then they wrote letters to the king saying, "Hoi, we'd really like to be part of the English crown, please." Because before that, they'd been semi-autonomous, run by marcher lords. Although technically, they were still under Welsh jurisdiction. So the king said, yeah, of course you can be English, and a big chunk of Wales was lost. So if you look at the maps, you don't see East Wales. You see South Wales, West Wales, and you see North Wales. You don't see East Wales. I mean, some people call Gwent South East Wales. But if you notice on a Welsh map, it's always South, West, and North, because the East is those 4 border counties. So you might not have thought of that before. So that this coming to the English throne. Now, the only reason which Henry VII could give for doing this was he had to claim that he was the ruler of the whole of Wales. And the only way he could do this was to exaggerate the importance of what his own claim really was, which was to this princedom or lesser kingdom in Gwynedd, not the whole of Wales. This is why it became so important to start deleting South East Wales history, particularly the story of the kings of Glamorgan and Gwent. Yeah, King Arthur, people like that. All that had to go from a long time back. Although they did actually, first of all, try to incorporate it into English history. But that's another story. So I wanted to do, again, talk about the suppression of the British history. You got what we talked about last week, which was when the Hanoverians came into control. And they wanted this bland British people. They wanted everyone the same. Everyone to speak English, dress the same, kilts were banned, local languages were banned. Everyone had to become generic British. One thing that struck me, just thinking about this the other day, for example, if you follow Napoleonic Wars, what we call the Scots Greys, the famous cavalry charge at Waterloo, their official title is the North British. I mean, it seems even the title of Scotland was tried to get away with. And the same with Welsh regiments and stuff. Then before that, you've got the printing with Caxton, and nothing allowed to be printed in Welsh until they managed to sneak through a couple of dictionaries and a Bible. And before that, you've got the Tudors and the fact that they have a dynastic claim on the throne, which is very tenuous and relies on this tenuous link between an ancestor and King John and coming through the kingdom of Snowdonia in North Wales. So again, South East Wales has to be pushed out. And the next line, which is what we're going to come on to next week in a big way. Next week's going to be a bit of a special. We've got 2 special shows coming up. Next week is going to be a real controversial one. And look out, it's Get the Tin Hats Out. Oh, hello, Monica. You just made it. You missed half the show, Monica, from Germany. Most of the show. Yeah. We're up to 22. Because what I want to talk about is the new books that are coming out. You all know Trojan War reprint out the door in a couple of weeks. That should be great. We've also got a new book from Wilson and Blackett, which I want to talk about, which is all about, for regular people who've read their work, a lot of it will be familiar, although not all of it. There's a lot of new work in here as well. So this book is all about how Christianity started in Britain, not Rome. How after the crucifixion, the Holy Family, the survivors, and possibly even Jesus himself came to Wales. And now this is going to seem ridiculous and crazy at first, but there's an awful lot of evidence for it, and this is what's claimed and put in the British records. So very much like with the other ones, Troy was made into some sort of myth and legend, distant history, until of course Schliemann went along and found Troy, and then here it was, and you can see the battles and in the Bible, the history, it all ties together, and it's just a way of getting rid of the history. Unfortunately for the history of Britain, and particularly South East Wales, this is very, very awkward. It's unpopular. What does Alan Wilson say is well as makes you about as popular as rattlesnake in the Lucky Dip barrel. This is the point there that the original Christianity, Western Christianity, started in Britain. And then with the capture of Caradoc, or Caractacus as the Romans like to call him, Caradoc going over at about 51 AD with his family, including his son or grandson, depending on which record you read, most likely his son Linus, Linus, who becomes the first bishop of Rome. There were no popes until about 500-600 AD or something. So the first bishop of Pope, and it's all explained in the book, how the politics, who Jesus really was. I'm going to talk about this next week, all right, because the book's done now. Just need to do the layout and stuff, and we'll get that one out. It goes through who's the genealogy of Jesus, which you can see in the Bible as well. You can see who his parentage were, all the way back supposedly to David and Solomon. And then you have, more interestingly I think, which is going to be very controversial, is who exactly his wife was. Yes, married. And it seems a shock to us until you realise that nearly all rabbis are married. And as he taught in the temple, as we're told in the Bible, he was allowed in there as a young person, and he spoke to the learned men, the holy men. He must have been a rabbi, or at least someone of equivalent level, if the exact job title didn't exist. You know, you're looking back at an earlier age, pre the modern version of Judaism. But anyway, somewhere along those lines, it would have been extremely unusual for him to be unmarried. So we go through who his wife is. Oh, here we go. Hi from Washington State, USA. Hello, thank you very much. And Welsh ancestry. Hello, Colleen. Nice to hear from you. So we're going to look at next week in more detail, and I'm sure there'll be lots of comments about this, is who Mary's parents were as well, because that's when it gets really interesting, because that's when we start to look at her lineage. And the whole point of the Holy Family and why it was so important was her inheritance to various thrones, Jesus' inheritance to various thrones. Bring them together, you got pretty much the most powerful family in the Mediterranean. So it's not a case of poor little carpenter's son at all. What we also do then, in the book, and I'll go through more details next week, is where they landed, where the first churches were, and then some of the older research I put back into this book, so you've got it all together in one nice big volume, all about Christianity, you know, at Helen of the Cross and those kind of things. So that's going to be very interesting, and I'm sure a lot of people have something to say about that one. I'm getting my tin out ready. But the reason I've mentioned it today is that it does give a unfortunately, well, as Alan Wilson puts it, that's like the moment. If the Holy Family had gone anywhere else in the world, British history might have been left alone. But with the desire of the Roman Church to control the message and control everything about it and the history, it was a disaster. Along with Henry VII getting on the throne, another disaster, and then the Hanoverians, another disaster, and there's plenty more. So when people say, well, why and how, we've covered quite a lot of that already, okay? Right, another one I want to mention is, just throwing in a bit of excitement, some news. Progress is coming underway, and I'm going to let a bit of news out on this one, because if people want to get involved, you're very welcome, all right? We're going to be working with a very talented writer in our group, and he's online today, so I won't embarrass him with his name, because he has a book coming out soon as well, which I might be promoting next week if we got it ready, almost done. But what we're looking at doing is a graphic novel. So please look in for ideas and feedback on this. What sort of format? Should it be... all my cartoons are gone. Oh, we took them away for the weekend. Should it be the full-on Batman style where everything is like little squares of... Not little, big squares. Of just full action and lots of dialogue and that kind of thing. Because what I want to do is a story of Arthur II. So I've been doing a few sketches, give you an idea. There we go. There's Guinevere, or Guinevere. Probably going to look something like that, or maybe like that. And then we got some ideas for a young Arthur. Look a bit rough at the moment, so you can recognise who that is. I'd be very impressed if you did, because you've seen the adult version I drew of him here. Alright, a lot of people got that one. But if you start looking at the younger pictures of him, he looks very different, okay? So we've got pictures like this. And of course they can actually be blocked in properly and finished properly.
The better young Arthur was the other one you did.
You prefer this one? Arnie likes this one better, yeah?
Yeah, the one that looks a bit like Wellington, I think.
Well, him or him?
No, the one on
that one. Alright, Arnie goes for this one. So if you get this done quickly, it's not going to happen, but it's going to be in fairly small volumes. Class of feedback. Do you think there'd be a hang on a second. Yeah, I've got a good question there as well. Do you think, another question, do you think we should be aiming this as a sort of the children's market, or I don't know, I mean, a lot of these modern graphic novel books, cartoon books like the Batmans and things, they're quite heavy, they're quite adult. And there's quite a big adult market, isn't there? So where do you think we should do it? I think we should do I want to find out. Right, so there's Old Welsh and New Welsh. Which should I start learning? And what books would you suggest me to make a start? Thank you, Ficky Stingers. McFarthing, that's a really difficult one. And this is another argument where I get absolutely attacked, like you would not believe, by people defending that modern Welsh is no different to the Old Welsh. It's just bizarre. I think people learn Welsh in college, they become an expert, they become a professor, and they can't bear the thought that what they've learnt might not be correct, or not, at least not correct for everyone. And I'm a member of my local chapel, and his old people there in their 80s, they talk a South East Welsh dialect. And I can tell you now, it's nothing like standard Welsh. They tell me that they're like more than bilingual, because they have to speak their own Welsh amongst themselves, and then they have to speak standard school Welsh, if you like, when their no grandchildren come home from school, or if they see the TV or anything like that. That's like your BBC Welsh. Hello, Arnie. You're off. Oh, here we are. Producer's going. Great, I've had it now.
No, I'm back until this finishes.
Oh, you are staying to the end, are you? To the bitter end, yeah? Okay, so that's just amazing. And one book reminds me... hang on. Arnie, can you see Shericum Ride there? There's a book that's covered.
What's it called?
Shericum Ride.
And you've covered it?
Yeah, it was there. I had it ready.
Ah!
Oh, bastards. I'll do it next week. Plus,
I'll keep looking for it.
Yeah, you keep looking for it. Plus, I brought it out to get it. Plus, I got it ready for once. Oh, anyway, what I wanted to show there, I'll do it properly next week. Don't worry, I'll do it properly next week. Because what I've managed to do is get some learner Welsh books together. Some right back from the 60s.
It's on the bottom shelf.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, this is a 1967. One of my covers again. Let's get the real cover out. Look at this. Hey, this is a proper school book, all right? You can see school children have scribbled all over this. And they have learnt Welsh. And you can go right from The very first words in here, they are not the same as the very first words that are taught in modern Welsh. How about that? And one example, which you remember from school, is I would always say in school, I'm going to school, right? Rydw i'n mynd i'r ysgol. Well, modern Welsh now say dwi'n. They've even dropped the rydw. So even the first word you learn in Welsh has changed. So it's a very difficult, thank you, Annie, yes, a very good, difficult question. If you want to chat, follow the news, speak to Welsh people, get an idea, then yeah, you should learn new Welsh. And say something in Welsh is very good. It's a web site. And unfortunately, it is the kind of modern chatty Welsh, which, I'm not a native Welsh speaker. I've basically learnt Old Welsh. The Welsh I've learnt is for producing my book, Cymroglyphics, which shows you how the Welsh language is behind hieroglyphs and you can read them easily. Just use Welsh, that's dead easy. And also look at these old Welsh dictionaries, which the modern professors and experts seem to slaughter these old dictionaries and they don't get taken into account when compiling new ones, which I think is just bizarre. There's this etymology. I'm going a bit of a rant about earlier. They have this etymology, right? And what it basically means is you have a theory. You have, the way it's been done, the new GPC it's called, and you've got a committee of extremely learned Welsh professors and experts at language, okay? And they sit around and they got millions and millions and millions of pounds. And this thing has gone on for decades. I think it was set up in the 1960s. And you have a committee. Now, for the old dictionaries, there's a name on the front, right? That's the first thing. It tells you who is responsible. So if you think, I don't know, Salisbury's a bit of a nutter or something, you can have a look at his life and talk to him and whatever. The modern dictionaries are very anonymous, done by committee. And you have this thing called etymology, where they use their very clever brains, and they're clever people, and they're very well educated, and they know far more about the Welsh language than I do. But what I'm not so sure they know better than someone who's around in 1800 is what 1800 Welsh sounded like, because that seems to be the claim. Because what you will have, a situation where one of the members of the committee will have a theory about the roots of a word. So where it came up, by accident, I drifted into an argument months ago, didn't mean to, and someone published on there, on one of the Facebook groups, a Welsh history group, saying, oh, it's really funny because you've got Country File, and they're just saying about they're going to introduce eagles back to Snowdonia. And the area they're doing it's a place called Erie. And they say, ho, 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 because they think this is old Welsh word for eagle, where actually, if you look at the etymology of it, it means ridge. So they're basically bringing it back to ridge. I was like, how'd you get that? And he sort of explained, well, it comes from the root of this word and that word, and it goes through the root and the etymology and loads of complicated jargon I didn't really understand. There we have the word. And I was like, well, hang on, I've seen that too in the Cymroglyphics. So I didn't know this person at all. And I'm just like, I don't really go with that online modern dictionary. It seems to miss a lot of words to me. I just get the old dictionaries out, and I got the old dictionary out, Errol, I think the word was. And sure enough, there's eagle. So I say, well, there it is, 1777 dictionary, 1805 dictionary, it's in there. So it seems like the proper word to me. And fair play, did have to sort of concede that it was a possibility. But what worried me was that, for example, when I was putting together a dictionary at the back of Cymroglyphics, and Paul Hartel, who's watching now for America, was the editor who just ground this into me and made it happen and really helped. And Tim Lewis, who's really good at the words. There's a team of us. Every single definition has got a reference where that word comes from, where you can see it, right? So if we were doing a comprehensive Welsh dictionary of all the Welsh words, what I would expect to see in it is, like that word, Errol. Modern etymology or modern thinking is ridge, whatever, right? And the name of the person, right? The guy, Adrian, right? I won't give his full name. Professor Adrian, his idea, and who signed it off, who was head of the group, okay? And they get their name in the book. They should be happy about that, get a credit, and people can see who to attribute, and have a complaint about it. Whereas, and also, then it should also say, 1777 dictionary, it means this. 1805 dictionary means this. 1845, that's a comprehensive dictionary of everything. I mean, the thing's supposed to have umpteen millions and millions and millions of words. I'm sure they could put in a few references. There we go. What have we got here? I have an etymology dictionary, English through English though. I'm surfing for a decent Cymru one. Well, Welsh dictionaries, I would go for the old ones if you're trying to use them, because the old words don't change. And I can see they whistle there. Thank you for your comment. Likes to go the Welsh word because that is the part of the word of any language which hardly changes over the centuries. This was the case. The Welsh language did not change. Well, it changed hardly at all. So one of the discussions I always get, and they say, oh, is it Brythonic A and Brythonic B? And how do you feel about Brythonic this, that, and the other? I have no idea. I don't see any relevance of any of that. You could just follow the Cymraeg, the Welsh language, all the way back to, well, Egyptian times if you want to. I mean, go back as far as that. In the 1840s, the word experts of the time said it was an ancient Assyrian variant, and it goes all the way back to 2000 BC at least. So why we have Brythonic A and Brythonic B and Godolic and all this kind of thing, it's just a load of nonsense. I think it's just follow the language back, look at the old dictionaries, and you'll see it there. So to try and answer the question, and please, more questions. Questions are good. If you want to learn Welsh as it's chatted and spoken, God, I can't speak English, can I? Then you need to go something like say something in Welsh, or I'll give an example. Another thing which I find very frustrating is hoping to talk on Radio Cymru at some point about the Cymroglyphics and all these wonderful things you can do with the Welsh language. Hopefully Radio Cymru would be interested. And I thought I'd better listen in more, tune my ear, and I'm trying to learn Welsh, dewchi, ddysgu and all that kind of stuff. And you realise you could listen to whole chunks of Radio Cymru and follow it without speaking any Welsh. That's what's happened to the Welsh language. And I'm not like one of these, nutty kind of nationalists or anything. I'm just observing the language and culture. I feel the same about England, Scotland, and Irish culture. The same thing's happening. The last straw for me was he had some person on there from the world of film studio, and he's chatting in Welsh, and I was trying to follow it, and he was like, dwi'n mynd i'n all-day filming session. I kid you not, on Radio Cymru. Dwi'n mynd, I go, an all-day filming session. And I was like, wow. Let's spot the Welsh words in that. Tell me more about the graphic novel about Arthur Robshaw. Well, actually, you, Rob, you're doing it, mate. So I was keeping Rob. You want to see more of that? Oh, you want to see more of the pictures? Yeah, I'm just the artist on this. He's the writer. Keep an eye on learning. Keep on learning, Ross. Always keep on learning. ABL. Always be learning. That's my watchword. ABL. All right. So there's my other young Arthur type thing. Okay. I don't think these are done. I haven't drawn portraits, they're caricatures, but any ideas what Welsh actor that might be there? You got no chance. He doesn't look much like him at all. But I thought it'd be quite funny, it's not meant to be too accurate a portrait, but I thought it'd be quite funny if the person who played Arthur in the sort of English version of the story, or Roman, or whatever the heck it was, that terrible film, could now play Medraud. He could be the enemy. So it's based loosely on Clive Owen, alright? We want to get the Welsh boys in this one. I know, not a lot like him, is it? And there's a rather funky Morgan Le Fay. Alright. And this one is... Come on. I could get some more jokes on this one. Come on, let's do some more guesses. This is... This is King Maelgwyn, right? Who was supposed to be a giant of a man, okay? He's supposed to be the biggest man in Wales. So this is also a drawing of someone who's the biggest man in Wales. And if you follow Welsh rugby, probably from the 90s, noughties as well, I can't remember. I don't know exactly when. Maybe you can recognise who this great big lumbering ox is, alright? Was he 6 foot 8, 9, 10? I know, he's a giant. So anyway, there's another question. Wizzle, was Welsh actually ancient Egyptian, or better still the language of Atlantis? I don't know anything about Atlantic. Was it used as classical language, much like Greek or Latin are used today? Well, it would seem to be. There was the Egyptian people. Egypt was very rarely an independent country. You go through its history. First of all, the Assyrians come in 2000 BC. There's a few hundred years of them, and then they leave. Well, it's like a puppet kingdom for a while. Then they get invaded up from Ethiopia. They get the Sudan invades. More famously, the Persians invade, and Alexander the Great, and then the Romans, and the British even. So it's very rarely independent. But what the native Egyptian people spoke is hard to know exact. Rhys Evans, yeah, good guess. Sorry, I was going to put Rhys Evans in. He is one of the sketches. It's well done. He's the. I'll throw myself now. If you look at the Bible, the Hyksos cassette in Exodus. If you look at the story of Joseph, when Joseph comes into Egypt, he's invited in by the absentee emperor, probably the Syrian emperor, to run the country as a sort of viceroy. So if you notice in the story, the pharaoh's never there. He's always off because he's got a whole empire to run. Egypt's just part of it, and the language of the one they brought with them. But it would seem to me that all these languages at the time were pretty closely linked. But it's hard to know what the rank and file. The beauty of the hieroglyphs and why they were done, and they were pictorial, is you could, as long as your language was pretty closely linked, you could read them. This is the thing. You could look at what they were, and the sounds would sound like the words you needed. So that's the theory. I hope, because I've got a little pet theory. Everyone assumes, I'm getting off into hieroglyphs again. Get back, Rusk. Stop. But everyone assumes that you start with the pictures, and then from that you gradually develop a written language or a more abstract language. I'm not convinced about that. I think this is a personal theory, all right? It hasn't really been proven particularly or anything like that. But if you look at modern experience, it's the opposite, isn't it? If you look at the modern experience, we've got written letters and stuff, but as you have products become more international, like electronic goods and things like that, the instruction manuals are more pictorial. If you get a remote control these days, no words on it. Everyone knows the symbol for almost everything. If I look at my computer now, there's no words there. I've got a little a speaker thing with a couple of lines that represents the sound. I've got a dot with 3 curved lines that represents my signal strength. I've got a plug symbol for power. So we're going towards words because they're international. You don't necessarily need to read them to understand them. So I would argue actually the hieroglyphs come after writing. But anyway, difficult one to prove, that one. Oh, a quick one about Baden. King Arthur, excellent. Thank you very much. Let's get on to Arthur. We haven't done much of that lately. Yep, Arnie, boys, Saxons. Camlann was more of a civil war. Yes, more of a civil war with Saxon allies on the side of Modred. Yes, go along with that. What seems to happen? Hang on a second. What Barber said. Oh, it's gone off the top of my screen. He's talking about Battle of Baden, which, if you're not Camlann, I think we were talking about. If you're not aware, when Arthur was away during the pestilence, or as Wilson and Blackett would propose, the comet made Britain uninhabitable, particularly Wales, and they had to leave the country and desert, well, that's a bad way of putting it, exile to Brittany for a while, where the British had land anyway, because that's why it's called Brittany, because the Britons were there. That during his absence, Mewdred, known as Mordred, who was his nephew, took his chance to take the throne, and to do this, he got, as shown there, various allies or mercenaries, or whatever you want to call them. So there's an alliance of Saxons and Picts and Jutes and whatever, and they all turned up on his side, and Arthur landed at Longbourth, chased him all through Wales, and ended up fighting a final battle at Camlann, which, despite all the mysteries around it, is a place. It's about 7 miles south of Dolgellau, and I want to go there this summer, and the summer's running out, and I still haven't been. Well, what are you saying, Aunt? Oh, my producer's jumped in.
You've gone really far up.
I've gone far up. What have I done? Uh-oh.
You're not seeing the newest chat.
Am I behind the chat?
Yes, because look, it's got the arrow, so you need to go down.
Oh, that's an arrow.
What do you think it was?
I didn't know it's an arrow. I can read hieroglyphics. I can't spot an arrow. There's another example. There's an arrow, all right? It's like a pointy thing. It looks a lot like Colburn. Colburn's coming next. Oh, yeah. I almost forgot the Colburn. What else on my notes to mention? Yeah, a lot of work on the Colburn now. It's honestly, it's really easy to read.
Your one's not working.
Oh, mine's not working. Okay.
There you go.
Words are restrictive. A hieroglyph, an image contains a whole concept. Yeah, there's something to be said in that, especially if you draw a picture and the items make up a number of, the eye can be something. If you look on, if this ties in with Glamorgan again, if you look at the bulls, for example, in the old Egyptian, the eyebrows, you've got the 3 chevrons as still seen on the Glamorgan shield. possible connection. And the way the nose is drawn, it looks like a leek. And if you look at the word for leek, and you get, off the top of my head now, a venin. And that gives you, oh gosh, I'm a bit rusty. Anyway, you can look up the word and translate it. And it tells you what the leek means, what the eyes mean. So you can do a lot more stuff like that. Okay, so falling behind a second. Capital M, dial M for Merthyr, yes. Robert Pierce. Oh, yes, so what we're saying was the Camlan showdown was a bit of a civil war. Okay, some more pictures, someone said. What else we got? I don't want to show Rob's yet. Yeah, there's loads of pictures done there, getting ready for doing the Arthur thing. Yeah, more about the Arthur one. But I think that was Rob being funny then, because... we're 5 minutes over. We're both Mordred and Gawain killed at Camlan. I'm trying to remember. Which one is Gawain? Because all these... Gawain and the Green Knight, he fights the Green Knight, you're absolutely correct. But they're all based on historical Welsh characters, and I can't remember which one he is at the top of my head. So who was killed there is a big thing at Camlan, isn't it? Because you have at the climax is that famous line which can be read about 6 different ways, depending on where you put the commas. So it's like I've got to get the wording right. Anyway, basically what he's trying to say is that Mordred and Arthur was slain. And depending on how you read it, Mordred was slain and Arthur. So was Arthur slain as well, and it's a bit messy, that kind of thing. What seems to be is that Arthur had 2 nephews, and if I may plug a video I did a year or 2 ago, if you scroll all the way down on the videos on the channel and look for Game of Thrones, and you'll see my version of what happened. And I'll see your comments on it, because I think everyone's got a different theory. To give you an outline of it, was Arthur's first son, Nawi, and he had other names as well, Lakai. He was killed, presumably fighting the Vandals. That seems to tie in with the story. So Arthur was left without an heir. And it would seem to me then that he had his 2 nephews were the most likely candidates, Gwalchmai and Mewdrad, and he's picked Gwalchmai to be his heir. And he's gone with him to Brittany, and they're sitting there quite happily until they find out that Mewdrad, the other brother, is not taking the news very well, and he's made himself king, as we discussed, brought in all these allies, and he's taken the country, and Arthur has to come back. To me, it seems to make sure that his choice becomes the heir to the throne. And both the nephews get killed. That's the tragedy of it. They're both killed, and it would seem Arthur was seriously wounded as well. Must have been a dreadful battle. Very personal, bitter battle. They always say civil wars are the most brutal, although a lot of the troops were foreign. The people at the front seemed to know each other. And I think this is a situation then where we had the problem, because Arthur by this stage... another controversial area, could be in his 60s or even 70s, definitely 60s you'd think. So he's getting on a bit, and he doesn't have a male heir, and this seems to be when he takes another wife, having estranged or divorced his first one, his second one probably being set up, he probably set the hunting dogs on. I think it wasn't very nice, Arthur. You might eulogise him as a hero and all this, but he's famous and he's kept history alive because he's such a big story you can't bury it. But he wasn't particularly pleasant. And he's pursued his second wife because she had a new boyfriend. He was also called Mordred, just to confuse things. Different Mordred, not the same one. Pursued him all the way to Scotland, 400 odd miles, 500 miles. And set his dogs on him. And there's a memorial stone, commemorative stone you can see in Scotland. It's still there. You can see the spot where the dogs ripped her apart. Isn't that lovely? So I'm not sure how much of that I'm actually going to draw in there. So, I was asking for help, wasn't I? Yes, so please. I would like to go full graphic novel. But if you see, I do have my example books ready.
Full graphic novel.
Yeah, that's the one you want, isn't it? It's what the kids want, you know what I mean? It's what the youngsters are calling for. And it'd be awesome, but my goodness, it would need hundreds of drawings. So I'd need some help. Ideally, somebody can draw as well, because the 3 stages putting these cartoons, it's the process I've always used. I know it's the one I checked that most of the Marvel uses. Drawing pencil to get the sketch and the outline and how you want things. Then you ink it in with black ink, and then you have a colorist who comes in and paints it all in. Or you scan it into a computer and they fill it in on a computer, put the colours in. To get that nice shiny effects and glowing colour would be nice. So if anyone can step into those roles. I've already had someone, an artist, some beautiful work and other graphic novels, has volunteered to put together a possible cover. And we might have some colour bits inside with like some big flowing landscapes and using his beautiful style of art, which is loads of beautiful colours and tones and fantastic. Different class to my sort of drawings and scribbles there. So that's good. Another book, which I mentioned before, which is definitely coming out now though, very soon. Drawings already done for it, illustrations. What I'm trying to do is basically make the Wilson and Blackett work more accessible generally. Okay, so I think lots of illustrations, smaller books dedicated to specific topics that people can get their head around and learn. Like putting all the Christianity stuff together in one volume. And then we're going to put all the, the myth of Rome and Britain together in one volume. I have this picture ready. Oh, here it is, yeah. There's the kind of thing. And this is this week's quiz question. Oh, sorry, you got more things here. What specifically do you need drawn, Ross? Oh, well, we got a whole story. So I'll come on to that in a second. And thank you for asking there. Mr. Finky Stingers. He's trying to catch me out every week with that name. So there's an example, all right? You can join on YouTube, make up a name like that, and no news it's you, and then you can... all right? So the quiz question this week is, what country do you think our intrepid, around-the-world ancient Egyptians are travelling to? Which country do you think that is? All right? There's your quiz question. Working out from my dodgy drawing.
Last week, Daddy.
Not this one, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, I didn't give the answer.
Yeah, you did.
Well, I always see who was paying attention then. I only reckons I showed it last
I
week.
know it.
I'm surprised you were paying
It's
attention.
my favourite drawing you've done.
It's his favourite drawing, Arnie. That's my favourite drawing, Arnie. So, well, thank you,
Oh,
Arnie.
that's
That's very nice. Well, someone's got it already.
And he's
It's just a guess. All right, it's just a guess. It's just a guess. You might be right. I'm not saying anything.
And goodbye.
Oh, yeah, hang on. You had to guess who's this. I didn't give you the answer for this, did I? Who's that? Biggest man in Wales. Played rugby for Wales. I'm not saying anything rude. He's a bit bigger and tougher than I am. But I think he'd be the first to agree. He wasn't exactly a graceful runner and ball player, but he was very big and won lineouts and pushed into scrums and things. And he's great. His heart was always there. Full commitment every game, so I don't want to say too much, okay? You can, don't forget to guess on this one who that is. Of the three, I would say the best likeness is probably towards the end of his career. He's got a bit chubbier, that one probably. All right, so he's ideal for Malkin anyway. Yeah, the Christian Bible book. I don't know what to do for illustrations for that next week. Oh, well, the question was, what kind of stuff do we want? Yeah, well, you can contact me directly because we're still working out the outline. With the graphic novel, what we've done so far is, man, it's a vast subject, and Rob's got brilliant ideas. So the idea is there's an overall, look at some of the guesses, for the rugby player. So what at the moment is getting a huge overview with all the threads mapped out, working, whatever they call it. I'm not good on jargon. I hate jargon. It's a plan, all right? And then, what are we going to do? Yes, jokes are coming in now about rugby. Yes, big men with odd-shaped balls. I know how rugby is. And then, when we've got all the threads worked out, then we can start to work out how much goes in each volume, because talking about it, this project's grown already. So, what I really need is someone who can do some of the drawing, or do some of the colouring, or do some of the artwork. I think the writing's covered. Got a very good writer on that. But there'll be plenty. We can even split up who does which volumes. It's that big a project. It really is enormous. All right, okay. What else? Oh, yeah. Good job, I wrote it down. So I knew I'd have forgotten. I'd have been so annoyed. Just to let everyone know, I did mention this briefly last week, but I will be going up to see Wilson and Blackett themselves in a few weeks. I'll be recording some new interviews. Hopefully, we'll see how the old boys are doing. I've chatted more to Barham lately than I have Alan, so I hope he's all right. Barham tells me he's okay, but obviously he's been isolated and that, so I got to be very careful. Everyone's going to be careful. There we go. Whatever. We'll work that out anyway, okay? So I'll be taking up the 2 computers are done for him. The monitors are done. Everything's been loaded up with the Word, the books. Everything they need will be on there. They can just click on. They can watch our videos. And what I also want to take up there as well, please, is as many messages as well. So email me or via Facebook or whatever. Like we did before. I think it was Christmas or last birthday. Last year sometime. We had everyone sending cards and ideas. And if you just draw something, I'll print it out. And it's, the difference it makes, you no idea. They feel a bit unloved. Especially with a lockdown, it's even less people than usual and not allowed to go out. Obviously, they're never going to see themselves mentioned on TV. They haven't had a PC, so they can't see what's happening on the YouTube even. And I want them to know that they got hundreds and hundreds of people out there, or thousands probably, but the hundreds we're in touch with who greatly value what they've done. And I would say they very much they've clung on to British history, not just Welsh history, British history, by the fingernails. And I think it's very unique. You had Alan Wilson, partly through being so long-lived, fate taking a hand, and him being evacuated to West Wales, learning Welsh language, learning the history, learning the stories, having this incredible computer-like brain, and then meeting up with Barham and this team they created because of his age of Alan, and also even World War II. The fact that the younger teachers were all off fighting, and old men were brought out of retirement to teach. So Alan says one of the guys who taught him, one of the old teachers, was probably in his 80s or 90s. And Alan was 6 or 7 at the time. So you think Alan now, another 80 years on, and that person had 80 years behind him. That's 160 years we cover. So it's a tenuous tiny link. And I think my son here, Arnie, as well, learning all this, and he can be 80, 90 years old. And between the three of them, they'd have covered 240, 250 years, a quarter of a millennium. It's not bad, is it? But I think if Wilson and Blackett hadn't come along, tragically, I have to say, I think, I wonder if any of this would have been saved at all. It was that close, I think, to being lost forever, which is rather tragic, isn't it? I think everyone would agree with that. So, right, I was going to put some music on as we get to the end now. I'm just going to see, there's a couple more questions. So I enjoy the questions, are good fun, aren't they? Don't always know the answers, so you have to live with me on that. Might make them up. Right, what else we got here? Quite literally on the same pod, Ross. Reminds me of Al Capone. The drawing on the far right. These are just 2 minute quick sketches. Well, one of these is Al Capone. One of these? Yeah, what's that one, is it? That's my left. What are you on about? What's it?
This was here. That's your right.
Oh, to my right. Yeah, what do you mean by left or right? That's my left hand, but that's my right side. Oh yeah, thanks, Arm. Is that the Al Capone one? Is that kind of, what's his name? De Niro, isn't it? De Niro played him in the film, didn't he, Untouchables? Okay, so there we go. Oh yeah, this is the... Oh, another subject. Yeah. I'm not going to discuss this now, so don't worry. All those who are logging off, we passed the 9 o'clock curfew, 9:15. The other big subject I was going to do tonight, and I was talked out of it. Well, you're off. Oh, Arnie's going out. Oh, Arnie, look out there. Thank you, Paul. Thank you. How do I get your email? Yeah, email. Very easy. Ross. I'm Ross. At Cymroglyphics. Cymro, as in Welsh. Cymroglyphics.com. I'm going to write that out. I'm going to use my high-tech electronic message board. Hang on, my electronic message board. I'm just plugging it in now into the satellite link. There you go. Okay. Ross at cymroglyphics.com. No expense spared. That's the production budget gone for the next 2 weeks, alright? I gotta wait for the 9-second lag, make sure that's on there. Ross at cymroglyphics.com. Alright, you got plenty of time to see that. And what I want to talk about, and we're going to do an extra show. We're planning to do an extra show on Wednesday at 8 o'clock. Tell your friends, get ready for it. Wednesday, 8 o'clock. Another live show. The topic, which keeps getting stuck in my face all the time, is I keep saying radiocarbon dating is a fraud. It's a load of baloney. It's nonsense, right? Thank you for the kind comments, Tim. It's a load of nonsense. Okay, Alan Wilson and Blackett banging on this about decades. And what they always said was they take the figure and they divide by 80 times 100, makes it 20% further back, and that's how they get away with cooking the books on ancient Egyptology. It's so much worse than that. And I try and explain this to Alan now when I go up there, because he's going to be shocked. It is so much worse than that. So I started preparing for it, but I was... My cousin, Neil, I hope you watch this, and Claire, They say we don't want to be talking about radiocarbon dating on a Sunday evening. I was like, it's great, it's so interesting. It's not about the... I'll make it clear to everybody, the word that begins S-T-A-T-S, stats, that's not going to be mentioned, alright? I'm not going to go into the technical, sciencey stats side, although I love all the stats and everything. And I know enough stats to be able to see when someone's doing a fast one, alright? So it's not... So you won't have to worry about that. What I'm going to show you is how it's another one of those massive hoaxes. That's what I'm supposed to say goodbye on the end of the music, but I drifted on, didn't I? This guy here, Libby. See, I was prepared, really. Libby's the one who came up with the idea in the 50s of dating things using the decay of stuff. Or as I call it, the bag of sweets theory, okay? I'll give you a little taster. Bag of sweets theory. You start with a bag, 32 sweets in it. And you say every hour you're going to eat half your sweets, right? So after 1 hour there's 16 left. Another hour there's 8 left, 4 left. Now that's this all about, okay? Simple as that. It's dead easy. Don't let the long words and jargon put you off. It's just the way of keeping you out from what's bloody obvious, alright? Alright, this guy Fomenko with his new chronology. He did a lot of work, showed a lot of nonsense it is. Provide some great examples, like other sources. They got loads of sources for this one. Alright, so if you know any scientists or archaeologists or historians who say radiocarbon dating is the gold standard, or dendrochronology, throw it in the same bag, or DNA dating, chuck it in, all load of rubbish, alright? Not even if it was what Alan Wilson said, it wouldn't be that bad. If it was a case of adding on 20% or something, even that wouldn't be that bad. It's far, far worse. It's a guessing game. Alright, and when it all goes back to, and this is... Should I do another quiz? Who's this? I am... no one's going to know. There's going to be some weird guesses, I think. Alright, I'll tell you what. I will cover the name up. Go on, let's see who knows. It's important you know these people, alright? They're important people. This guy is from the 16th century. I don't need to look that up, I know his dates. From the 16th century, and he is the person, right? This one bloke who seems to look exactly as dodgy as I've drawn him. This one bloke here, okay, who decided all the history. He's the one. You think, oh, how do you know when Alexander was in 322 and the Romans came in that date, and then it was these guys and those guys? This bloke worked it all out in the 1500s. So look at his name, alright? Father of history. He's the one who decided all the dates. And do you know, since the 16th century, not really been changed. So every time you introduce a new science, like radiocarbon dating or whatever, he has to match what blank blank said the date should be, okay? Alright, so there you go. You know a history professor from Swansea. Brilliant. Get him out. Ask him how carbon dating works. Does he trust it? Does he believe it? Do any of them work? Because DNA dating's the new one I was shown this week. There's come a lot this week, alright? I've had a lot of incoming flack. Usual stuff. It's all about... So it's not a boring subject. It's about... Where's that drawing there? Someone said the drawing I did looked like Al Capone. Al Capone would be proud of this one. They've made millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions. And I'll show you. It's so easy. It don't work. Okay? Anyway, so... Cadvile. Now, is Cadvile the guest for the picture I put up? Because I love the idea of it being Cadvile. Yeah, get any ex-head of Wessex archaeology. Chris, Wessex archaeology. As you know, I did a thing on it a couple of weeks ago. There's nothing Saxon about Wessex archaeology. Get him on here. I'll interview him. Tell him interview him live or record an interview. I'll come to see him in Swansea or wherever he wants. And we can discuss Wessex, as I have done with another professor about 4 weeks ago. You can see it on Anglo-Saxon History Group or something. Not filmed, unfortunately, where in the end he said, well, they're only culturally Saxon. And I did mean to wear my Volkswagen t-shirt tonight with my T5 van on it, and I can say I'm culturally German now because I have a German t-shirt with a German car on it. Wessex is not part of Saxon. And of course, this gets awkward because the most famous Saxon person is Alfred, who's supposed to be from Wessex. Oh, the Geoffrey of Monmouth stuff, thank you. There was one more. Oh, sorry, I have his thing to show. Oh, man. Why didn't that come up? Alright, okay, I'll have to do that next time. He was on the presentation, but disappeared. Anyway, okay. Now, what he was, just showing how the British... This Geoffrey of Monmouth is prompted there by Robert. And he was showing if you get a book from, he was 1820s, There's 5 peoples in Britain, like the English, the British, Irish, Scots, Picts, wherever it is. And then the British, you see how they name, they become Welsh, British, whatever. Anyway, there's our famous Chong. It must be time for me to leave. Arnie's already gone. I don't think he's gone to bed, so I'll find out what he's up to. Yeah, that's right. As Robert Pierce says, there's Legolas says, if he's retired, now's the chance to say, isn't it? I've got a few professors lined up for interviews. I don't know if they want to have cameras, so I'm not quite sure I'm going to do it, really. So if you've got any suggestions there, I want to have a face-to-face. I'm taking on all comers now, right? I feel quite confident about this. And not only that, if they can prove I'm wrong, I'm like, brilliant. Bring it on, show me. Because it's not there, okay? It's not there. We've been told a load of doo-doo. Know what did someone call what I said last week? Woo-woo. Doggy woo-woo. I quite like that. Your stuff's a load of doggy woo-woo. No details of which bit or anything like that or what was wrong with it. But there you go. It's with our big anthem. La 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 la. I'll leave this running as usual for 10 minutes or so while I run around and chase my children, try and get them up to bed. So thank you everyone. Keep it real, Ross. Yeah, couldn't be much more real than this, could it? With my high-tech electronic scoreboards and great show. Thank you, Craig. Very nice of you to say so. I felt a little bit thrown together tonight. But I got 2 prepared ones. So Wednesday, 8 o'clock, right? Wednesday, 8 o'clock. The Great Dating Fraud. Tell you what, by the way, people suggest a good name for that one. Nice clickbait. That would be awesome, alright? What was I going to say? I guess everything. PCs, Wilson and Blackett, Christian books coming out. Look out, here it goes. I know people get very upset and sensitive with Jesus involved. Some new Alan Wilson interviews when I got there in a few weeks. That's it, yeah, I think that's all done this week. No news this week from the Facebook groups. I'll do a double header next Sunday. Alright, so hope everyone enjoyed that. I love all the comments. Have some questions ready for next time as well, alright? Loving the questions, alright? The Great Dating Debacle. Oh, thank you, because debacle's a good word, isn't it? See, when I put I put a video up, the Great Dating Hoax, and people thought it was out to con the opposite sex into doing things. When I talk about dating hoaxes, people get the wrong idea a little bit. Oh, it's also the music's too loud. The music's too loud! Turn it down! And it's rubbish! It's not rubbish, it's great. This is our theme tune. Alright, so good night from me, and I'll leave the music running. And the chat on. I might even join in the tatting on the... Keep your awen shining, Ross. Yes, my awen is shining. Diolch yn fawr, yes. Bore da all. Good morning, everyone. It's a bit late for that, isn't it? Heddwch. Great stream. Thank you. Diolch. Right, I'm going to put that funky graphic of Mr. Caxton. Well done all those who identified him correctly earlier. And don't forget the quiz questions. And I'm going to write them down so I actually remember to give the answers next time, okay? So Wednesday, 8 o'clock, if you can make it. Otherwise, I'll see you again next Sunday. And to everyone, more trips coming up. I got so many videos to edit and put out, and books to do. It's all hours, so I'm doing my best, right? So bear with me. Oh, Arnie's waving goodbye. That was 9 seconds ago. Until then, more star, Heddwch. Nights. Thank you. Cheers, Timmy. Oh yeah, sorry. Robert says, come on, 1,000 subscribers. Yeah, that'll be the other special show. We got a special surprise lined up. Get to 1,000 subscribers. Won't be appearing like this on that night, alright? It won't be just our little t-shirts or shirts. Let's get to 1,000. Special night planned. And we've got some souvenirs being made as well. So yeah, more things soon. Alright, good night all. We'll start.
Yes, it's so crystal fire and blues, but soon I'll sleep no more on a children. It's food for speed. take away all time's strength. Can you make up, make up, make up? To give someone a little get. There's no reason to dance the way we know, and soon I'll love some more and like to smile the way you do. I'll soon find neighbors to make life a little easier.
Okay, everyone, thank you very much again. Wonderful audience. Everyone's always so kind. All the comments are so wonderful. Really appreciate the support. Yeah, as Geek said, please remember to do the like and subscribe. Try and get to 1,000 subscribers and keep out there. Spread the word. Tell everyone about it. Get people to watch. If they can find something wrong, say put it down. Tell us what's wrong, and that'd be great. And we're all ears. And until the next time, once again, nos da Heddwch pob.